All right, 3, 2, 1, stay gold. Spending when you don't have it, which if you've seen the previous video, which is titled one of the top things keeping you broke, this one is gonna, like, that title makes it seem like I'm going over the exact same things, but there are some differences. There are some things that I didn't say in that previous video. But basically, I'm just gonna go over really quick, spending when you don't have it, and then some things that can kind of give you some solutions to that. So yeah, it is gonna sound a little similar to that video towards the end of that one, but this one is different. So basically, spending when you don't have it, it's when you know, it's when you're conscious, right? You can be either conscious or you could be non-conscious when you're doing this. So either you know that you're spending when you don't have it, or you're unintentionally spending when you don't have it because you're just not thinking, in those regards. You're just not thinking in the moment, and then you go to get something later and now you're just completely broke. So spending when you don't have it consciously is way worse than when you don't know you're doing it, right? And I've done both. I've spent when I didn't have it before, and you always pay for it later. With both of these, you always pay for it later. You get real hungry, you run out of food, and now you have no money. So now you got to figure out, or actually hope that you got something in the pantry, or you might need to call some assistance or something, because now you don't even have food anymore. So most of the time, it's very easy to say that most of the time when you're spending when you don't have it, it's on a want. It's not on a need. It's crazy how reluctant you are to spend on something that you need versus something you want, because wants are fun. Wants are backed by desire. Wants are backed by temptation, right? And it's so easy to just spend on a want than it is for a desire, because wants are commonly more fun. And unfortunately, the way that it is now, fun comes with a price, because it's fun versus needs. And at this point, even needs are becoming, very pricey. So it's very important to know of these things, before you get in that situation where you're backed into a corner, financially, resource-wise. It's good to know these things. So when you spend without realizing you're spending beyond your means, basically, here's something to do real quick. Calculate your wage, calculate your monthly earnings, and then calculate your salary. If you work a normal job, this is incredibly easy because you have consistent income. When you're an entrepreneur, you don't have consistent income, primarily in the beginning. Even when you've been doing it for a while, you can have times where you just aren't making money, which is why you save money when you earn it. So as you're earning money, put some of it away. Even if it's 20%, you'll appreciate that cumulative 20% over the span of like 6 months when you're not making any income anymore, versus you just spend 100% of it all the time. Listen, one of the things I had to learn, first and foremost, is just because you have the money doesn't mean you have to spend it. Me personally, I could care less about money. It's just money to me. Honestly, it's just some superficial thing that's not really a thing, but because it has value to like minds and stuff, it's a thing. And it's going to become even more superficial when it's completely digital versus being physical, which means that it'll be even easier to take away from you. But aside from all of that, when you do these things, right? Your wage, how many days out of the week you work, and then how many days out of the month you work. You can factor in taxes if that applies to you, and then you can just take that, multiply it by 12, and it gives you your salary, basically your projected earnings for the year, right? Entrepreneurs is going to be a little more difficult because there is no consistent number. You don't get a consistent paycheck. It's different every single time. You may have made less this month than you did last month, which means you need to look at a couple of things to prevent that in the future. Sometimes it just can't be helped. That's why you give yourself little nest eggs, little safety nets, so you can make it through those tough times where you just aren't making anything, right? But even with 9 to 5s, when you miss days of like work and stuff, that can affect you too. You've just missed a lot of money basically. And if you do that like 2 days, 3 days out the month, basically, yeah, you're probably gonna feel that. If your budget's so tight, you might feel it from just missing a day. It is so crazy, so crazy. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing now, because that type of like, that's just not for me. It's never been for me. You know, one of the only reasons why I ever even got like a conventional job was because of my dad. You know, but all that aside, when you impulsive buy, and what is impulsive buying is when you see something and then you just buy it. Like you immediately buy it and you don't really think about anything else, right? A great example is going to like the technology section, and say you have a phone like case, but you want a new phone case or something, and you see a phone case you like, you buy it. So basically anything you see that you like, you're more likely to buy it than to walk past it. You know, versus window shoppers, which businesses absolutely despise because they just take inventory and they don't buy anything. Like, they don't take the inventory, but you know what I mean? Like, they look at everything, but they don't buy it. And businesses can't stand that because they want you to buy stuff. So when you're just looking at things and you're not buying things, yeah, you might be thinking about buying it later, but they want you to buy it now. Versus that person that they're seeing in the store basically grabbing everything off the shelf that they see. Yeah, they're really happy and they really want to keep that person because they know every time they go in that store, they're going to leave with like a shopping cart full of stuff, aka they're going to make a lot of business. I probably should have said hints there, but yeah, when you're a conscious when you're a conscious impulsive buyer like me, I know when I'm spending and I don't have it, and I spend it anyways. Because I'm telling myself, well, this might not be here next time I come around. Or I tell myself I'm going to need this in like 2 months, and I'd rather just have it instead of having to go to the store later and getting it, right? No matter the justification I try to use for it, the end result is still the same. Money was spent unnecessarily on something I didn't immediately need. You know, and even if it's an investment purchase, like basically what I do now every time I do it, I basically do it in like an investment way. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna need this in the future, so I need to get it now. It's still a waste of resources because it's still not an immediate need. It's just something that I want in the moment. You know, and I've toned down on it tremendously in the past year and a half, you know. But it puts you in this vicious cycle of just always not having money. You know, either you're missing days at work or you're just outright just spending all the stuff you work so hard for. And if you have a really crappy job too, that's obviously a dead-end job and it's crappy on top of that, you know, and you work so hard for that money and you just spend it just like that. You know, the best way to invest that money is to invest it in your entrepreneurship. Use that type of stuff that's set up to your advantage. You know how much that you're going to be bringing in each paycheck. You can budget around that and limit your spending. Limit it to things that you only need, and if you really need to do it, you buy as you need, not buy preemptively. You know, so that way you at least got the money still in your account versus, you know, you preemptively bought and the money's gone, but you got stocked up food and stuff, right? I'll probably make a video talking about like really affordable foods, but I'm gonna let you know they're not the most delicious foods, but they're gonna keep you alive and they're gonna keep you going until you get to the point where you can buy the delicious foods. Because yeah, all the organic stuff, all of the meats, yeah, all that stuff is becoming really overpriced, and I know why it's happening. You know, and it's a load of BS, but you know what? It's another thing that cannot be controlled. You know, you got to take that up with the people that's in the position to do that prick behavior, right? But anyways, those are ways to combat, you know, spending when you don't have it, right? Limiting what you spend. Maybe limit yourself to a certain amount of items, which that's not always a good thing. Because you could limit yourself to like 10 items, but then you pick the most expensive items. So like, obviously there's got to be some extra things tied to like the item things. Maybe you can only like get items that are reasonable and you can only get 10 of them or something. Or, you know, there are different ways to budget. There are more ways than one, right? You know how much you make in a month, so you got to spend accordingly. Don't forget about the costs of living, aka bills. Don't forget about taxes. filling up their pockets, you know, just for staying here, essentially. Don't forget about that stuff. And of course, the last thing, prioritize things that you need over things that you don't need. Like, I have to go to the arts and crafts section because I got to get something that I actually do need for the side stuff, whatever you would call the side hustle, right? My TCG stuff. But that's it. That's all I'm going there for, you know, is to get that. And maybe I'll get myself like some freezer food or something for lunch, right? But in each trip that you go to the store, you can practice spending discipline. I don't have the time to make the video now, but it will be made eventually on spending discipline, right? But ultimately, the stuff that I've said in these previous 2 videos, they all tie to spending discipline. Prioritize needs over wants. Have the strength to walk past the things that you want instead of grabbing them. Think long term instead of short term. I was impulsive buying even when I was thinking about the long term. I'm like, yeah, this is going to probably affect me negatively long term, but I'm buying it anyways, right? I still got a lot to learn about that stuff. Even though I've toned it down tremendously, I still do it from time to time. More than I should. So anyways, that's all I got for now. Take what you need, leave what you don't. Turn to gold.